Dear ambitious African, this is your host, Secho. In this podcast, we'll discuss everything about our journeys and experiences towards achieving our goals for life and work as phenomenal change leaders in our varied communities. We'll feature other ambitious Africans crushing it through arts, social activism, tech innovations, entrepreneurship, and positive lifestyle and holistic well-being. We are the generation that is redefining Africa as we know it, and as an ambitious African, now is the time to get involved. Give us your feedback and ideas for our next podcast, and let's keep the conversations going. See you inside.
Hi there. How are you doing, and how has your day been today? I hope you've had an amazing day. I have had a very good day today. I had a no itinerary day today, except for going to the supermarket to do some grocery shopping. But I for the most part of the day, it was definitely a no itinerary day. If you don't know what a no itinerary day is, it's my version of a lazy day where you do nothing. I don't like to call it a lazy day because lazy sounds a bit negative, but it's just a no itinerary day because those days are also essential for you to take stock of what you're doing, what you've done, what needs to shift. But then it doesn't have to be a big reflective retreat. So sprinkling those days in my schedule week on week is super important to me. And obviously for an introvert, it's it's how I recharge. So I had one of those days today, except for later in the evening where I had to go grocery shopping. So I would call that a very good day, in my opinion. And today I posted something on my LinkedIn that I felt I should bring here so we could have a discussion about. On my LinkedIn, I posted something about perspectives, right? And the background story to the post I made was really, when I woke up this morning, I was like in this pensive mood. If you're not a morning person, you can totally relate, where you're awake but you're not fully awake, so you're just in lost in your thoughts, and you're thinking through things, and you're just reflecting through things. That was like how my day started in the morning. So I was thinking about that, and the thoughts about the concept of perspectives came to mind. I was just thinking about it, so I decided to pen something down and post it on my LinkedIn. I'm going to read it to you, and then we can have a conversation about it right after. So I'm going to read. I was in a hard, difficult, painful place years ago when I learned this lesson, but it has served me well throughout my entire life and career since. You see, when you go through hardship and face a lot of challenges along the way, it's very easy to sink into the belief that it's happening specifically to you, that you're doing something wrong, that you're not worthy of good things, or that you somehow don't deserve them at all. But one thing I have learned is this: there's something called perspective. And to me, apart from the word nuance, it's the second most beautiful word you can learn for yourself. Perspective. I've come to realize that even in hardship, even in the hardest times, by shifting where you stand and how you see things, you can completely change how you respond to what's happening. Sometimes a very small shift, slightly to the left, is enough to help you see something you were missing altogether. So this is my admonition to you as we step into a new year, and more broadly, a new season of your life. Carry the word perspective close to your heart. Use it as a measure of how fully you understand what you're experiencing. Because for all you know, with just a simple shift in perspective, your entire understanding of what you're going through could change and move you toward gratitude, or at the very least, sober appreciation. Sometimes finding perspective will be hard, There'll be moments when nothing makes sense internally. In those moments, you may need to look outside of yourself. Do not relent in seeking perspective from other sources when it refuses to come from within. I found that in some of my lowest moments, I couldn't see any perspective at all. I was locked into the version of the story I had convinced myself was true, and leaning on other people's perspectives came and became one of the ways I survived those seasons. Sometimes that looked like watching something online. Other times it was listening to someone say something unexpected. Sometimes it was simply telling someone what I was going through, even if I framed it as, my friend is going through XYZ too. By borrowing someone else's eyes, I was able to change where I stood on the issue I was facing, and in doing so, change how I responded. And my friend, that is where real power lies, in your response. But to respond well, you need the right information, and that's exactly what perspective gives you. The end. So that was the post, and I I get to share a bit more than I did on LinkedIn here with you because we have some time that sharing a post on LinkedIn wouldn't give us, right? And so I'm going to bring you a bit into the context of what exactly was going through my mind as I'm thinking about this. And to be honest, this isn't a new thought that has come to me. I've always, I can't say I've always, but there was some time in my life, possibly in my teens, where I discovered that there was a level of exposure that comes from just shifting your thoughts and stance on things. I didn't have the right language for it then, but now, as as I've experienced different things, I have come to appreciate perspective, the word perspective, as a way to capture the essence of what my experience was, or what the feeling I had in essence was. Since then, I have totally loved the concept of shifting your perspective, changing your mind, shifting where you stand on things, because personally, it has helped me expand my understanding of the human nature. It has also helped me in my understanding of reasons some things happen, and also helped me dig deep into my faith and have the hard conversations with myself around those different topics, you know, whether we're dealing with people, dealing with reasons things happen, or dealing with the hard conversations we often have with ourselves regarding faith. I have found that by leaning onto the idea, or even if I can even call it the excuse of the idea that I want to have a perspective shift, by just leaning on that, I have been able to learn something new. Sometimes they are not the best of things that you are going to learn, but they are indeed helpful things. And that has been my own experience. And so one thing I have come to really love for myself is the idea of perspective shift, is the idea of feel free to change your position on things when you get new information. Do not be stuck into one description, if I can call it that way. One description of what you think you're experiencing. No matter what you're experiencing in life, there's definitely a different way to see it. And sometimes when you see it differently, it changes your entire world from it. I'll give you one practical example. I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me how he wants to do all these things for himself and his dad. he is a creative. He's a creative person, and he's looking around, like doing different projects, like shows and things. And he was telling me how he has all these goals and ambitions he wants to really do. Like, these are life projects he really has to do. And I was like, oh, okay, nice. So how are you going to begin working on them? And then he was just telling me, oh, how he was talking to some other friends, and they were telling him there were other opportunities he can he should rather be paying attention to if he wants to find a job or if he wants to make money, right? So here's this person who is literally creative, loves to write, loves to produce shows and things like that. But then, because he's looking for a job or something that can pay him money, he's like, okay, my friends are telling me, let me go into these areas. So let's say construction. Let me go into construction because that's where the money is. And he's like, that's the strategic thing to do. And I was asking him, really, is that the way you are seeing it? He was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, these are the proven ways to make money, or these are the proven ways to have a steady income source. As I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, granted, but would you permit me to shift your perspective on it? He says yes, and then I go ahead to say, okay, so if construction is where you think the money is, then it's not the construction that is your issue. It is steady source of income. That is your issue. And if you're looking at having a steady source of income, then that is a different conversation from I need to go through construction. Because if you want to go through construction, there are other more like stronger reasons to give yourself to enter that space than just because somebody says a proven way to make money, right? So what makes you think that you can make money in what you are really passionate about in this day and age? For all you know, it might not necessarily give you money, obviously, yes. But what if you told yourself, in my bid to still keep body and soul together as I pursue these passions of mine, I am going to pursue something or pursue options that give me a combination of both instead of diverting altogether into construction, for example. And all of this is hypothetical in terms of the details. And so we're having this conversation. I'm telling him, have you even explored opportunities to make money inside where your passion is? Have you even explored if there are opportunities to make money there, so that all the things you're doing are aligning and they are supporting each other? So you can, if you can find a creative studio, a production team where you can support them in any capacity with script writing or something like that, that is also one way you can make money and still be in the ecosystem of what you're trying to do for yourself and for your dad, right? And then we had that conversation, we unpacked it some more, and I left that conversation learning for myself. Sometimes your definition of the problem is what steals your perspective. But guess what? Being open to stand somewhere else to look at it is where you can find the real definition of the problem. And sometimes it's just through having those conversations. So having those kind of conversations, in this case, is just one of the ways you can build or find a new perspective to it, whatever problem you're having challenges with, right? Another way you can do that is, like I said on the in the LinkedIn post, like you can watch things online, you can Google things. That's totally fine. But the point is, no matter where you go with your thought process as you're dealing with things, make sure you are objectively giving yourself the grace to shift your perspective and not be so emotionally attached to it, right? Because if you become so emotionally attached to things, you are giving it precious energy, precious energy that is stealing objectivity from you and is stealing your ability to respond properly to whatever you're going through. And that is really the heart behind the LinkedIn post and what inspired me to come on here to share, really, for you to also consider. So, my admonition to you is, where can you find new perspective? Where can you find or explore new perspectives going into this year? If you're looking for a hack, one is cultivating a community of people around you who can always give you that, so much that it's not when you have problems you are now looking for people to speak to, or a perspective shift. Like, proactively curate systems around you to constantly shift your perspective on things, so that no matter what you're going through in life, it comes within the context of you've mentally explored those possibilities right even before they happened. Okay. And one way you can build that community is right here on the Ambitious Africans podcast. I am so honored to even have this opportunity to spend this time with you. And I would want this place to be a safe space for you to also have that perspective shift. And so if you're thinking through where to find good, solid thoughts and ideas or feedback, literally that's it, feedback, this place is somewhere you can come to. And right now, the way it works is, whatever you're experiencing, whether you're thinking through, should you transition your career from one area to another, should you travel abroad, should you spend your money in a particular investment fund, anything and everything, as best as we can, other people in this community, this small growing community that we have of about 23 subscribers and 74 subscribers on YouTube, 23 on here on Spotify. Combined, we are 98 people. We can bring you perspective in making a right choice, or give you more information to help you make a better choice in your decisions. Then if you find this helpful, then go into the show notes or the description down below. There's a Google form. It pretty much asks you to share your first name, your details, and then just what's on your heart. Share what's on your heart, and I'll be more than happy to come on here to read your challenges and your thoughts on here for feedback from other listeners. I also mentioned that I was going to read a message somebody sent me right after, and that would be the closing for today's episode. It's from it's so funny. It's from a former boss. Oh my God. I worked with this man, I think about, in 2026. So like 12 years ago. Oh my word. it's I've already read this message, but like, reading it all here is now, I'm trying to give you context. It's just taking me down memory lane. I was very young then and I knew very little, but yeah. So he sends me this message. He says, "Happy New Year, Diana. Keep shining and keep on the good work. You're making us all proud." And that for me has been a perspective shift for me, because when I read that message, I was like, you know what? Every single time I beat myself down for not doing something perfect, not doing something excellently, I should balance those times and thoughts with some encouragement. So going forward, this is something I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sharing encouraging words from you as you share them with me, and make space for that as much as I make the space for all the negative thoughts as well. So that for me has been my own form of perspective shifts today. What has been yours? Fill in the form on the show notes and let me hear from you. so glad we spent this time together. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.